Good afternoon, this is Angela with Parkos Permaculture. Today I am working on preserving some of my harvest and thought I would share with you all some tips, particularly about preserving fruit in the summer. So we have a really big plum harvest that goes on from basically June all the way through the end of September because I have many varieties of plums, and you can check out some of my videos on a few of the types of plums that I have. Today I will be using Stanley plums, of which I have an abundance, and making plum jam. And you might see here in my kitchen, there's no canning kettles or jars or anything out. And that's because it is late August and it is in the 80s today. And we try and keep the kitchen cool in the summer as much as possible. So we eat a lot of salad and panzanella, and we do a lot of cooking late at night and early in the morning and trying to keep the temperature down. So this can be in conflict with the harvest season where you want to make jams and jellies and canned fruit in the middle of summer, and doing that requires boiling a lot, so it increases the humidity and the temperature in the kitchen dramatically. And I want to avoid that at all costs. So I actually don't make jams and jellies in the summer. If I can fruit, I do it late at night. But if I'm going to make applesauce or jelly or jam or chutney, I do that in the fall and the winter. So what do I do with my fruit until then? This is my solution. Imperfect as it may be, we have a large freezer, and that makes it possible for us to use this method. So what I do is I have, some of my plums, wash them, bring them in, and I prep the jams and jellies, and then I freeze them. So let me talk you through that process. Stanley plums are really large, big egg-shaped plum. They make a pretty jam. I have talked before about how I much prefer damson jam, but my damsons aren't ready yet, and I have a glut of these plums. So I'm actually going to be making a plum ketchup as well, which is fantastic. I think it's better than tomato ketchup, and I haven't made it in a long time, and I have such an abundance of plums. This is a good year to do it. And then here I have prepped my batch of jam. So what you need to make plum jam, and I'll have the recipe included in the description below, is you need plums, an acid, sugar, and a little bit of water. And the reason that you don't need a box of pectin, now you can make plum jam with a pectin, but the reason that you don't need it is because plums themselves are really high in natural pectin. And pectin is basically a starch that exists in a lot of vegetable material, but it exists in abundance in certain fruits, especially when they're a little bit underripe. So blackberries, apples, plums. Now, a lot of commercial pectin is made from quince or apples. And quince, in fact, are a great way to get low pectin jam to set. Add quince to it. But you don't need to add any pectin. Now, you can use commercial pectin. You will get a quicker and thicker set on your jam, but I prefer not to for plum jam. It sets fine on its own. So what I do is I take a Ziploc bag and I write my recipe on the bag. I write what's included in this bag, and then I write underneath it what I need to do after I thaw it. So in this bag I have plums for jam. 4 pounds of plums, and you want to take your plums and you want to wash them, and you want to leave the skins on because that gives your jam a really nice rosy red pinkish color, and you want to chop them pretty finely. So I have 4 pounds of plums. That's a heaping 2 quarts chopped for me. Okay, and I don't like really big pieces because you're cooking with the skin. Now plum skins are thin and they break down, but I don't like really big pieces of remnant skin in my jam. So yeah, I cut them pretty small. And then you have the addition of, I take 1 or 2 plums that are a little less ripe. So that galacturonic acid that is in pectin exists in a higher amount in slightly underripe fruit. So I want to get a bunch of really ripe plums and then throw in a couple that are a little bit more firm, so they have a little bit more natural pectin. So to that 4 pounds of plums, I'm going to be adding half a cup of lime juice. You could also use lemon juice. I really love the combination of limes with plum. I think that they pair very nicely together. And I have the zest of one lime here. And when I zest my limes, I use a microplane, which is actually originally a tool from the woodworking, but it's been used a long time for culinary purposes because you get this incredibly fine zest that lends all of the zesty flavor, but you don't end up with big bites of zest with that pith or that intense kind of overpowering flavor and texture. So I really like it because you get the good qualities of zest, but the zest melts into the jam without those obtrusive pieces in it. So I'm adding the zest of one lime, the half cup of lime juice, and the 4 pounds of plums to my bag. I will put it in the freezer, and then when the weather is cold, and I would be doing the family a favor by running the stove on a cold winter's night and heating up the kitchen, I will make a batch of plum jam. So the only things I don't add to this are the sugar and additional water. You could, if you are using a non-commercial pectin jam, you could add these to your freezer bag right now if you wanted to. I don't, just to save room. So when you make a jam with commercial pectin, you have to bring the fruit pulp to a boil with the pectin, and then you add the sugar all at once. But when you are making a jam from naturally occurring pectin in the fruit, you actually put all of these ingredients into your jammy kettle, and then you bring it up to a boil, and you let it boil until it reaches the setting point of 220 Fahrenheit. And or when your jam or jelly, when put on a spoon in the fridge, is then sheeting off the back of the spoon. So I don't need to do the directions because I've been making jam for 15 years. But I do like to have the proportions just so I don't second guess myself when I pop this out of the freezer. Shoot, how much sugar do I need? How much water do I need? I'm ready to go. So that's my simple tip on how I make jams and jellies and chutneys and ketchups using fresh produce while embracing the permaculture principles of produce no waste, and thinking about catching and storing energy, and thinking about slow, small solutions. So in all of this, I am not producing the waste of excess heat. I am not causing us to have to cool our kitchen unnecessarily. I am catching and storing the energy of all of this harvest here. And then I am using small solutions of, let's just utilize our freezer and delay the process of making jam and jelly until it is more energy efficient. All of that helps me preserve my harvest, save energy, and increase my comfort. So I hope that helped you all out. I will be back more with some permaculture gardening videos soon. I hope that helps you all in your food preserving endeavors and being able to utilize your harvest. Stay cool here at the end of the summer, and I will be back soon.